Wow, this is just too easy making videos like this. This is weird, I can just keep recording. Ooh. Oh. I couldn't decide what videos to make today. I've just woken up with a head full of video ideas and I didn't know where to start. Yes, I've got a Mandelbrot thing. I've got oh yeah, Bigfoot maps. I got a maths problem that I want to talk about, quadratic series. But I've decided to make today's video. Thanks to wait a minute. In the last video I wanted to thank Metallica fan and Roger for the encouragement that they were giving me on the flight sim videos. I just wanted to say thanks, guys. I recorded a bit where I said that and I didn't put it in. The No Agenda guys were just talking about their value for value model. Anyway, on the subject of podcasts, I really only listen to two at the moment regularly. I listen to the best podcast in the universe, which is No Agenda, and I also listen to the funniest podcast, in my humble opinion, which is the last podcast on the left. And it's funny because you've got Henry Zabrowski, who's completely nuts, and then you've got the two other guys basically trying to control him. Well, you've got one guy who's trying to control Henry Zabrowski, and then you've got another guy who acts as a storyteller, and it's kind of like moderator in the middle, storyteller on the left, Henry Zabrowski on the right. The storyteller kind of almost reads a very scripted kind of story, and then Henry Zabrowski acts it out as they go along, and it's just, it's so funny. And the reason that I'm talking about that is because the episode this week was so good that there are three things that I actually want to talk about from that one podcast. Suspected Toronto serial killer charged with 8th murder. Man buried victims in potted plants. Suspected Toronto serial killer Bruce McArthur was charged with an 8th count of murder after police identified a Sri Lankan man whose dismembered body was found in a potted plant connected to McArthur. Toronto Police Detective Sergeant Hank Idsinger said Monday. Last month, Toronto police released a photo of a bearded man who they believed was a deceased victim of McArthur and asked for help identifying him. Police identified the man Monday. Anyway, I'm not telling the story here, am I? McArthur, 66, was first arrested in January on murder charges. So what's his name? Bruce McArthur. Bruce McArthur, 66, was first arrested in January on murder charges. Police say he buried his victims' body parts in potted plants on properties where he worked as a self-employed landscaper. Police have said that McArthur had some sort of relationship with each of his victims, some of which were sexual. So this guy was going around Toronto killing guys. He's killed at least 8, and the bit that was on the last podcast which amazed me was that when the police raided his property, there was a man handcuffed to the bed. I think that guy was in a certain amount of danger. McArthur has also been charged with the killings of Salim SM, Andrew Kinsman, Majid Kayhan, Dean Lisowick, Soroush Mahmoodi, Skandaraj Navaratnam, and Abdul Basir Faizi. Unlike the other victims, there is no prior evidence linking Kanagaratnam to Toronto's gay village, Idsinger said. Okay, so I don't know if I think that was a bit of a jumbled mess, but the point I was trying to make is a serial killer in Toronto who killed 8 people. I mean, that's a pretty major situation. So I wanted to talk about that. The next thing was that they mentioned Caylee Anthony has been offered $500,000 to appear in Hustler magazine. So Marie and we know about Anthony because we did a road trip in America in 2009, and in Britain we don't really hear anything about Caylee Anthony, but I know that it's a really big story in America, and Caylee Anthony had a daughter called Caylee Marie Anthony, born August the 9th, 2005, and died in 2008. She was an American girl who lived in Orlando, Florida, with her mother, Caylee Anthony, born 1986, and her grandparents, George and Cindy Anthony. On July the 15th, 2008, Caylee Anthony was reported missing in a 911 call made by Cindy, that's the grandmother, who said she had not seen Caylee for 31 days. Cindy said Casey had given varied explanations as to Caylee's whereabouts before finally telling her that she had not seen Caylee for weeks. Casey lied to detectives, telling them Caylee had been kidnapped by a nanny on June the 9th and that she had been trying to find her. She was charged with first-degree murder in October 2008 and pleaded not guilty. And she wasn't convicted. And now, 10 years later, Hustler are offering her $500,000. The not guilty verdict was greeted with public outrage and was both attacked and defended by media and legal commentators. Some complained that the jury misunderstood the meaning of reasonable doubt, while others said the prosecution relied too heavily on the defendant's allegedly poor moral character because they had been unable to show conclusively how the victim had died. Time magazine described the case as the social media trial of the century. Okay, so that's Caylee Anthony and Hustler. And then finally, this one. Well, for the previous two stories, I am probably going to put pictures up, but for this one, I don't think I will. Anatoly Moskvin, born 1st of September 1966, is a Russian academic and linguist from Russia, from Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, who please comment below, who was arrested in 2011 after the mummified bodies of 26 girls between the ages of 3 and 15 were discovered in his apartment. After exhuming the bodies from local graveyards, Moskvin mummified the bodies himself before dressing and posing them around his home. Moskvin's parents, who shared the apartment with him, had seen the mummies but had mistaken them for large dolls. After a psychiatric evaluation, it was determined that Moskvin suffered from a form of paranoid schizophrenia. In May 2012, Moskvin was sentenced to court-ordered psychiatric evaluation and has since been held in a psychiatric hospital. Vladimir Stravinskas, the head of the investigative committee of the Russian Federation for the Nizhny Novgorod region, called the case exceptional and unparalleled in modern forensics. Wait a minute. Whoa. In 2005, Oleg Ryabov, a fellow academic and publisher, commissioned Moskvin to summarize and list the dead in more than 700 cemeteries in 40 regions of the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast. Moskvin claimed to have gone on foot to inspect 752 cemeteries across the region from 2005 to 2007, walking up to 30 kilometers a day. During these travels, he drank from puddles, spent nights in haystacks and at abandoned farms, or slept in the cemeteries themselves, even going so far as to spend a night in a coffin being prepared for a funeral. Moskvin also claimed that on his extensive travels he was sometimes questioned by police on the suspicion of vandalism and theft, but that he was never arrested or reprimanded. The work itself remains unpublished, but has been described as unique and priceless by Alexei Yesin, the editor of Necrologies, a weekly paper to which Moskvin was a regular contributor. After Moskvin's arrest, Yesin stated that he was confident that there had been a mistake and Moskvin would soon be exonerated. He also told the Associated Press that Moskvin was a loner who had certain quirks, but had given no indication that he was up to anything unusual. He was. I just want to say, hindsight's a wonderful thing. So yeah, that's it. Just a load of stuff So yeah, just really offloaded a load of stuff. I don't know if this will edit together to make a decent video or not, but if you found any of this useful, interesting, disturbing even, please throw me a like and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with something off my list. I'm actually thinking of going live and playing something. I'm not quite sure what yet, but I want to play a game. I'm going to play a game live on the YouTubes. So yeah, thanks a lot everyone. Bye. Okay, that's it. It's done.